Alright, I should be live now, but let's check just to make sure. I'm streaming over here. Oh, I forgot to open up the chat as well, because I forgot to do that last time, and whatever. I'm streaming over here. Open in browser. Is that the one I want? Alright. I don't know if I'm streaming though. But I'm streaming over here. Alright. So I'm definitely not live now. So today, we're just waiting for the mailman, because I have a surprise for everyone. And, yeah. I'm just gonna sit here and wait. I'm not gonna do anything this week. We're just chilling, waiting for the mailman. No episode. Just, hanging out, waiting for the mailman. No, I'm joking, obviously. Let me promote this, though, first. And then, I'll talk about it. So, I usually stream at 10. And I usually stream, what happened? Yeah, I've been getting a lot more sleep. So I have problems sleeping, right? And promoted. I guess let me just finish what I'm talking about. So I have trouble sleeping, and my problem sleeping is that I will wake up in the middle of the night at like 4 in the morning. And then I'll go to sleep at like 7, and then I'll wake up around 9. So I figured out my problem, and my problem is that I switched up my sleeping schedule. I have a whole routine so I don't wake up in the middle of the night. And that routine is at 8 o'clock I do a little workout, push-ups, planks, and then I read. And I'll read like anything on my phone, on the on something on the bookshelf over there, if you look over this shoulder. So yeah, I just read. But lately, I've been writing a lot. And so I've been doing that instead of reading, and that makes my brain more active. And so I was waking up at like 1 o'clock. And so then I just stopped. I didn't write. I didn't read. I watched a video. I watched a clip on YouTube, actually like a documentary, when stand-up stood out, and it's about the Boston comedy scene. You should definitely check that out. I will send it to you if you want me to. Is anyone actually here right now? Okay, one person's watching. What up? So, okay. Anyways, so today I woke up at like 7 o'clock, and I was like, okay, let me wait till after 10 to start the stream so that if the mailman comes, I could show you what I have coming to me in the mail. And that is, I have open podcast stickers, because I sell t-shirt designs on Zazzle, and they owe me money, but they won't pay it out. So I just decided to buy some stickers. It was like $10. I had more than $10 in the account, so I was like, okay, let me buy these stickers, even though Fajar is working on a new design, so now they're vintage open podcast stickers. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. I don't really want to ship them, because I don't want to ship just one sticker. So I might just wait. I might create my own logo and wait for Fajar to create his own logo. And so that way we have 3 stickers, and I could send out those 3 stickers instead of just sending 19 different people one sticker. But I don't know, we'll see. Because I still have like $8 in the account for Zazzle. So that just cost me $2 to create another 20 stickers. And then I might just have people pay for like an extra $1 for the new sticker. Like, say my design is covered, and then if I want to send out a third, I have people pay an extra $1 for shipping, and I have 20 different people pay out for shipping that should cover Fajar's design, and I could just do it on Zazzle, and it's covered. I don't know how it looks though, if it's just like individual or if it's one sheet where I have to cut it, because I'm not very good at cutting. I don't know if this is interesting to anyone. Okay, no one is watching now. Alright, so let's get into it. So, last week, since you watched my streams, everyone, consistently and on the dot, you know that I interviewed Brendan Weinstein. So, for this week's episode, no one even saw the thing on Telegram. Okay. I interviewed Brendan Weinstein of the Open Podcast Community for the Open Podcast Community podcast, which is live on Apple Podcast right now. Still waiting for Spotify. And so I wanted to go over interviewing and talk about how I came up with those questions. Basically, just go over the process of interviewing. Also, I have a survey for everyone that I would love if you did it. I need to stop using my hands. It's the 50th episode of the podcast. I think this one that I'm recording right now. So, it's almost been a year, and as you know, if you are a consistent listener of the podcast, I really wanted to get to 52 episodes. And so, now that I'm definitely going to hit that, because I have 500 other episode ideas that I need to write, I want to check in on everyone. I don't really get to interact with my podcast listeners. I have 3,500 listens of the podcast total, and I only know like 7 people who listen to the podcast. So, I want to know how you found the podcast, why you listen to it, what content so far has been the most interesting, what you want to hear, and is there anything I should add? Those are mostly what I want to hear. Okay, so waiting for the mailman. He comes, what time? He usually comes around 11, and it is 11 right now. It's 10:53. He usually comes when I'm making lunch, so at 12:30-ish, around there. So it usually takes me an hour to record. It usually takes me an hour to stream, unless something happens, like someone comes in and I start having a conversation with them. So yeah, podcast, newsletter, that's 1 hour. I'll just stay on if after the podcast, because I feel like it's going to be a long one. I'll go check. And then I'll start the newsletter. I'll leave you guys with music too, what I've been listening to lately. The crazy sign. Okay. I need to stop using my hands. I don't like that. So yeah. No. Okay. Memphis, Tennessee. Okay. Yeah, this episode's probably going to be longer than usual, but let's get this over with. Okay. Is anyone watching yet? No. Okay. building an indie business in the center of venture capital. How about in the land of VC money? Building an indie business in the center of venture capital investment. I'm Alex Edmonds, known as Supreme Rumham on the internet. Welcome to the Building an Indie Business podcast. Okay, that's a new intro that I thought up just now. Tell me what you think about it. This episode is going to be about interviewing, and I thought this was very appropriate because I just interviewed someone. So I'm going to go over the do's of interviewing, the don'ts of interviewing. What else? Yeah, the don'ts of interviewing. I'm going to walk you through a little bit about how to interview someone. I'm going to talk about the mistakes I made. I made a couple. The benefits of interviewing, the downsides of interviewing, what software to use, and how to get great guests. Okay. Before we get started, I want to let you guys know that this is the 50th episode, I believe, and my goal was to hit 52. That's my only goal for this the podcast, 52 episodes. And so now that I'm definitely going to hit that number, I want to hear from you guys because I don't hear a lot of feedback from my listeners. So I created a survey. It's just 10 quick questions. I want to hear how you found out about the podcast. What's your favorite episode? Is there anything you want to hear? Anything missing? Things like that. So I'm going to be putting a link to the survey in the show notes. Okay, so let's get started. The do's of interviewing someone. Assume your audience knows nothing. So when you have a guest on the podcast, introduce your guest. Or let them introduce themselves. Let them introduce what they want to talk about or their history. Okay. And you want to do this because your audience can easily get lost or disinterested if you start a podcast or a conversation, in this case, in the middle. Start out light. And this is because your podcast guests might not be used to being on a podcast, and they might be nervous. So allowing them to start with easy questions, it'll make them less nervous. And after some easy questions, they will relax. So start off with something about their background, and they'll start from there. Do open-ended questions only. So ask them questions that they can expand on, and it won't end abruptly, and it'd be difficult to transition. So an example would be, don't ask, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Ask, which ice cream flavor do you think is better, chocolate or strawberry, and why? Okay. Next is have a goal. What do you want to get out of the interview? What do you want to know? This allows you to direct where the interview will go, the flow of the interview. So, for example, my goal with Brennan was to learn about finance, and Brennan's goal was to talk about product hunt. And so I will go over in the walkthrough about how I achieved that. Okay, let them know that things can be edited out. And the reason why you want to do this is because it'll make them more comfortable and willing to talk. If they might be afraid to be open with you, if they are afraid of making a mistake and thinking that you're going to publish it no matter what. Okay. The next do is be flexible. Don't stick to the script. If the interview goes beyond your outline, let it. In my interview with Brennan, I had 15 questions that I had outlined, and we only went through about 5 of them. Okay. Do avoid questions that might make the guest feel awkward. So, in my interview, I knew that Brendan had just exited his company that he was a part of. So I didn't ask him like, "Oh, how much did you make because of the exit?" Because that might make him feel awkward. Okay. Do remember that they're most likely doing you a favor. And the reason why I bring this up is because you don't want to blindside them with one of your questions. So one example would be that I wouldn't be like, how do you feel about venture capital and the impact it's having on the lower class in New York? I wouldn't say that to Brendan because that's awkward and he has nothing to do with that. Okay. The next thing to do is give them the first question ahead of time. So the reason you want to do this is because it helps the podcast flow, because the person is already thinking about what to say before the podcast gets started, and they don't have to stop and then they don't have to. There's not an awkward pause right after you ask the first question because they already know what they're going to say. So with Brendan, he knew before we started recording that I was going to ask him about University Beyond. Okay. So the next thing you should do is your research. Don't ask questions they've answered a million times. With my research with Brendan, I knew he has a background in finance. I knew he was involved in a esports startup. He's a big fan of Product Hunt podcasts because he's a part of the open podcast community. And he lives in New York. So I don't have a bad example of not doing your research for Brendan, but I listened to a lot of Bill Burr interviews, and one thing you don't want to ask Bill is don't ask him how he got started in stand-up. He's answered that question a million times. Don't ask him about why he started his podcast because he's answered that question a million times, and he's answered that recently. So if you're doing your research on Bill, and you look through his videos and previous interviews, you'll see that he's answered that multiple times. It's bad. Okay. The final thing that you want to do is make sure to allow your guests to mention anything you may have missed. And you want to do this by saying, is there anything else that you would like to mention? Okay. Those are the do's of interviewing someone. Now, these are the don'ts. Don't do rapid fire questions. They're lazy. You don't have to do research for them. And your podcast ends up sounding the same because each guest their answers will eventually mix and be the same. Okay. Don't express your opinion or comment on something that the person you're interviewing says. It eats up time and no one cares what you have to say. If you're interviewing Bill Burr and you express your opinion about something he says, I don't care. I'm listening to the interview for what Bill has to say. If you want to say something about what he said, do an episode after the interview, a solo episode explaining your thoughts through the interview. No one cares. Alright, don't jump right into the interview. Meet with them before, let them relax, and then start recording. So, with Brendan, I spent about an hour with him before the podcast, even longer than that. And we just really got to know each other. We talked about the what questions to ask, things like that, and it really helped us have a better interview. All right, so interview walkthrough. So for an interview, what you want to do is you want to have 12 to 15 questions, so half a page of questions for 30 minutes of an interview. And so if you have an hour interview, you want a full page of questions. And this is so you don't get stumped or have any like dead air during the interview. Okay. And so you also want to map out the interview, creating a web of potential answers, so that way you know what to ask if the guest goes a certain way. So, for example, if you ask, or hold on, let me just do my example. So, I was going to ask Brennan about his previous startup, and then I was going to ask about his role at the startup. And then, depending on what he said about his role, I was going to ask about finance or about his day-to-day at the company. So if he said, "Oh, I was the CFO of the company," I was going to ask the finance question. And if he said, "Oh, I was the CTO," I was going to ask, "What is your day-to-day like?" Okay. So you want to do that and try to transition to each question. So actually, let me just go over the full interview that I had out in my head. So I was going to start out with tell us about yourself. Then I was going to go to previous startup. Then I was going to go to role at the company. And if he answered about finance, I was going to say advantages for a company to stay private longer. And then I was going to ask about the indie maker movement, which is how I met him online. And then I was going to ask about Product Hunt. And then I was going to ask about the Product Hunt meetup that he has just hosted. And then I was going to say, what are you working on now? And so if he answered about like the CTO or a different role, I was going to say, what's your day-to-day? What attracted you to bootstrapping? Then I was going to go to Product Hunt. And I was going to go to the meetup. I was going to let him talk about the meetup. And then we were going to meet up at what are you working on now? And then I was going to ask him about the podcast industry. Some of these questions I didn't even get to because I just let him go. I let him talk about his previous startup, about college, about his opinion about the education industry. We didn't even, like I said, we only went through like 5 questions that I had. I was prepared for a switch, as you always should be. Okay. The mistakes I made during the podcast, or during the interview. I interrupted him by accident. And, so he was talking, and I said, "Oh, what year was this in?" to get a better frame of mind for people, especially for me. And so I interrupted him by accident, and I think I ruined his train of thought, and that kind of slowed down the interview a bit. Another mistake is I transitioned badly. He was finished making his point, and I go, "Oh, is that it?" And so for what I meant was, "Are you done with the interview?" And I felt like that was like, "Oh, I'm bored. Are you done with what you're talking about?" Yeah, I didn't think that came off well. The final thing that I did badly, and I think that I did this really badly, is I didn't test the audio or software for the interview. So I had just assumed that if we were on any video platform, that it would record the audio for me, and I could just edit it somewhere, or on Audacity, because that's how I do things. Okay, but we tried Zoom. It wouldn't record the audio. It would record the video, but not just solely the audio, the video, the audio. It wouldn't record the audio only. And so we tried Google Hangouts. That didn't work either. We tried Skype. That didn't work either. And finally, Brendan was like, "Oh, is there like a podcasting interview software?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's try Zencaster," which I know about, but I just wasn't thinking about it. So finally, we did Zencaster for the audio, and then Skype for the video. And we got disconnected after the interview, and we saw the video, but because the audio was on Zencaster, we couldn't hear each other, and so we had to hang up on Skype and then call each other back. And I just thought that was really funny. Okay, now the benefits of interviewing. When you've interviewed someone who doesn't have a podcast and they have an interest in podcasting, they'll invite you onto their new podcast, and you'll be exposed to a new audience, and so will your podcast, so you'll get more listeners. Okay. Another benefit is less speaking for the host. So I've been talking for 15 minutes nonstop, and with interviewing someone, when I was interviewing Brennan, I talked about for maybe 2 minutes total in a 46-minute podcast. That was great. I loved it. Okay. The downsides of interviewing someone. You constantly have to search for guests. I was very lucky that Brendan had asked Fajar or me to interview him. I probably wouldn't have done an interview if it wasn't for him, because I don't want to search for guests, and that's why my podcast is solo. Okay. Another downside of interviewing is the inconsistency in the quality of your guests. So one person can have experience being on a podcast, and that really helps you because they know how to handle being on a podcast and they might not get nervous. Another guest you have, this might be their first podcast and they're not used to expressing themselves, and so they'll be nervous, and your quality between interviews will be inconsistent. Okay, so now how to interview someone, specifically the software to use. So to record the actual interview, I use Zencaster, and what Zencaster does is it will send you 2 audio files. It'll send you your audio and your guest's audio. The downside of Zencaster is you can only have 2 people on the interview. So if you want to do a round table, you can't use Zencaster for that. We use Skype for video, and that's just to see each other, and if you want to make visual cues to each other. And then for editing, you can use Audacity. So like I said, Zencaster will give you 2 audio files, and you upload them or import them to Audacity, and then you do like 3 different things. I think you go to track and then mix and then render, and then it'll put them together. It's very easy. I was so relieved it was so easy. Okay. The next and final thing I want to talk about is how to get great guests on your podcast. Okay. The first thing you want to do is you want to tap into your network. And this is how I had Brennan as a guest on the podcast. He is part of the Open Podcast Network. He was looking for to be interviewed, and I was looking for someone in the community to help start the Open Podcast community podcast. And I finally did, and I will put it in the show notes, finally. Okay. The next thing you want to do to find great guests is look for places where people are looking for guests. So there's podguest.me, which has basically ads for people that want to be guests on podcasts. It lists what their area of expertise is, why they want to be on podcasts, stuff like that. So that is one place. And I actually am currently working on a feature to post ads for people that want to be guests on podcasts and people that are looking for a co-host. That will be a paid feature though, but it'll be like $1 to $2 just so I don't have to have fees, and it'll prevent spam on that page. Okay, So the next thing you can do to get great guests, and I think this is the final point I'm making. Yeah. So the final way to get great guests is have a specific person in mind and find out where to contact them and reach out to them from there. So let's say I wanted to have Bill Burr on the podcast, which I would love that. But anyways, so if I wanted to have Bill on the podcast, I couldn't reach him on social media because he has 1.4 million followers, something like that. So he's always saying, email me at bill@themmpodcast.com, and his assistant goes through that. So odds are he would hear about that I wanted to interview him on my podcast if I sent him the email. So probably email would be best for him. So yeah, that's how you would get great guests. Okay, that's all I have for today. This is a pretty long episode. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. If you are a avid listener of the podcast, please fill out the survey. It'll be in the show notes. Thank you for listening again. Have a nice day. Bye. Jesus, dude. That. Alright. The mailman didn't come. Any questions, person listening to this podcast or this live stream right now? Alright, I'm gonna assume there are no questions. Dude, that was a super long episode and now my throat hurts. From Memphis, Tennessee. Oh, let's listen to that. I'm gonna actually I want to listen to music right now. So you're gonna listen with me. Whoever you are, since you won't reach out to me. Memphis, Tennessee, Chuck Berry. I want to listen to this one.
Long distance information, give me Memphis, Tennessee. Help me find the party, tried to get in touch with me. She could not leave her number, but I know who placed the call. 'Cause my uncle took the message and he wrote it on the wall. Get in touch with my Marie. She's the only one who'd phone me here from Memphis, Tennessee. Her home is on the south side, high up on a ridge, just a half a mile from the Mississippi Bridge.
I have to go to the bathroom. Okay, I was gonna go check them out, but stick with the music.
Help me information, more than that I cannot add. Only that I miss her and all the fun we had. But we were pulled apart because her mom did not agree. Tore apart our happy home in Memphis, Tennessee. Last time I saw Marie, she's waving me goodbye, with hurry home drops on her cheek that trickle from her eye. Marie is only 6 years old. Information, please. Try to put me through to her in Memphis, Tennessee.
Alright, I'm back. What song is this?
Long distance information to give me Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, this is the live version.
Help me find the party.
Do you know what song I really like? Shh. Not this one. What is it called? Oh, Johnny. Johnny Be Good Tonight. I love this song. I listen to it on repeat all the time. Oh. Alright, someone just left because I played Chuck Berry. Okay, that's cool. I forgot what I was doing.
Deep down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in the woods among the evergreens, there stood a log cabin made of earth and wood, where lived a country boy named Johnny B. Good, who never ever learned to read or write so well, but he could play a guitar just like a ringing a bell. Go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, go,
Jesus.
go,
Who
Johnny,
the fuck is this?
go.
Alright, sorry, I'm not supposed to.
Johnny be good. He used to carry his guitar in a gunny sack, go sit beneath the tree by the railroad track. Old engine he would see him sitting in the shade, strumming with the rhythm that the drivers made. When people passing by, they would stop and say, "Oh my, but that little country boy could play." Go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Johnny be good.
I forgot what I was checking. Oh, that's right.
His mother told him someday you will be a man, and you will be the leader of a big old band. Many people coming from miles around to hear you play your music when the sun go down. Maybe someday your name will be in lights saying, "Johnny be good tonight." Go, 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 Johnny, go. 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 Go, Johnny be good.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I sit and listen to 'em by myself.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Now we're waiting. Oh, yeah, I gotta do headliner. Of course. If I run out of things to do, I'll show you something. I want to take a... I should stop talking in the middle of a sentence and then taking a drink of water. It's a really bad habit. What was I saying? I was saying something. I was using words. Oh yeah, so I want to take a soundbite from the interview, and then I want to put it on the social channels, because Brennan and I talked about like all the profit sharing companies like Earnest Capital. So I want to take that portion of the interview, just that part, and say, oh, we at Open Podcast love profit sharing agreements and earnest capital. And hopefully they'll see it, and Tyler Tringus will become a fan of the Open Podcast community, join it, and then invest in me, and I won't have to find a job. That's the dream. Literally, that is my dream world. Okay, so what am I doing now? MailChimp. Alright, yeah. It is 12:25. No mailman yet. He'll be here. Actually, no, I'm not gonna check. I'm not gonna bother. He'll be here eventually, unless I get bored. Too bored. I wrote out a list of things. Oh, here it is. I wrote out a list of things that I could talk about or do to kill time while we're waiting. But I kind of hope to do this one at a time and not like all at once. But if you have any questions, let me know and I'll answer them. If you want to know what it's like to live in San Jose, if you want to know what it's like to go to college in this century or this era of people being called snowflakes that go to college, I don't know, whatever. I have it open, I have it right here, I can see when a question pops up or when a comment. So yeah, just ask me. I don't know. If you want me to talk about San Jose, it's not great, Bob. It's not very interesting, and a lot of people move here, which creates a lot of competition. I did the wrong thing, and so it's harder to get a job than it was before, and it's not my fault. And you think you have to like make yourself unique, because when you're in class and all you have is the fact that you have this degree or you're getting this degree, well, the person next to you, the person in front of you, the person behind you, they also are just getting this degree. So your degree is not unique, no matter what. And so you have to differentiate yourself. And how I did this was I taught myself things. I taught myself web development. I taught myself photography. I taught myself audio production, podcasting, things like that. But it doesn't matter. So, because apparently you also need the experience, which every summer I didn't get a job somewhere because I don't like the companies in this area. Hopefully you're not listening. If you are, I'm just kidding. I don't like working for big companies. They all suck. And so every summer I just created an internship for myself instead of working for a big company. Yeah, so when I was 19, I started a Instagram account. I did that from 2015 to 2017. So in 2017, that was when Facebook started having privacy issues, and I also started to get into, I started just to get tired of like always having to take pictures, and the fact that there's no automation for Instagram. And so I stopped that and I started to alright. So in 2017 I started to learn programming again, because there's 3 times in my life where I started to learn programming. And so I started in 2017, and I was kind of annoyed at this time when I started about how there's no automation on Instagram. I'm sorry, excuse me. And so I don't have a podcast member to highlight. Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, so I started to get annoyed at that and the fact that they specifically make it so that you can't automate everything. And then they're going through all the privacy issues, and I'm learning programming. And here's programming where you can automate anything. So I just started building, and I stopped taking pictures. Because for every picture on Instagram that you see that's really nice, it's about 200 other pictures that weren't as nice. And I wasn't that great at photography, so imagine that. Imagine like a good photographer and all the time they have to put in. I actually drank water, not in the middle of my point. Alright, making progress over here. We're making progress over here. Dude, I haven't even like... Oh my god. Alright. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Thank you for actually working when I wanted you to. Appreciate it. Okay. What am I? Oh, we're doing articles. So we're over here. I really like this one. Actually, I'm deleting this one because it was like from 2 weeks ago, and I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. Okay. We're making progress over here. Yeah, I don't... What the hell was I talking about before this? Oh, yeah. I was talking about jobs and why it's taking me so long to get a job in San Jose. So yeah, every summer I created my own internship. I think that's the point I was making. Yeah. So every summer I created my own internship. For all the reasons I listed before. And so now when I go to something about a job. Oh, when I go to apply for a job, they're like, you need 2 to 3 years of HTML and CSS. Check. But then I need 1 to 2 years of working in an office. I've never done that before, so how am I supposed to get that? Yeah, it's a whole thing, and it sucks, so... But I've been thinking about it recently. Pretty recently already. Alright, so they're gonna email me the video, and I think this is... Okay. How to interview someone... How to interview a podcast guest. Alright. I'm walking over here. Alright. So, what was it? Every summer, I created my own internship. Oh, yeah. Wait. So, I've been thinking recently that no matter what company I work at, and if you're watching this and you're thinking of hiring me, I'm just joking right now. Any company I work at, I don't care about the company at all. So, and what I want is I want free time to work on open podcasts, my own podcast. So, I think I just might get like an hourly job, and then they can't be like, hey, do you want to work 80 hours a week without pay? And I'm going to be like, only if you pay me. So yeah, I think if I do an hourly job, that would help me. I don't know. No one's watching this. I'm drinking a lot of water. Want to just play music? Kinda. Alright, hold on. Alright. It is 11:35. No mailman yet. I discuss how to interview someone on the do's and don'ts. What else did I talk about? Also, you know what about job boards? Let me talk about job boards for a second. Once everyone knows about your job board, it's kind of worthless. Because if you have 200 people applying for a job, then it's really hard to find that one person that's actually qualified for your job. Alright, so let's say you're looking for an entry-level AI engineer. And you post it on LinkedIn. And that LinkedIn entry, listing, that's the word I was looking for, gets 200 people applying for it. Alright, so you're looking for the 1% of the 1%. That's 2 people. But now you need to go over... Yeah, that's 2 people. Alright, so now you need to go over 198 other people, and that one person might slip through the cracks, or those 2 people. So it's better if your job board that you're using doesn't get so many people using it, or that know about it. Do's and don'ts. Do's and don'ts. An interview walk through. Mistakes I made. And how to find great quests. Memphis, Tennessee. You guys want to listen to that again? Because I kind of do. Well, no one says anything, so we're gonna listen to it again. Chuck Berry, Memphis, Tennessee. I like this song, dude. Hold up. This song came out a year before my mom was born. That's how old it is for me.
Long distance information, give me Memphis, Tennessee. Help me find the party, trying to get in touch with me. She could not leave her number, but I know who placed the call. 'Cause my uncle took the message and he wrote it on the wall.
Hi. Any questions for me? It's a bad episode to get the notes from, actually. So right now I'm just formatting my my notes to something different, make them cleaner. And we're listening to Chuck Berry, which is this song came out in 1959, which is a year before my mother was born. Fun fact, I guess. No, this is also a bad one.
Help me information more than that I cannot add. Only that I miss her and all the fun we had. But we were pulled apart because her mom did not agree. Tore apart our happy
Alright, that scared them off.
Tennessee.
I guess. Whatever.
Last time I saw Marie, she's waving me goodbye. With hurry home drops on her cheek that trickle from her eye. Marie is only 6 years old. Information, please. Try to put me through to her in Memphis, Tennessee. Long distance information, give me Memphis, Tennessee. Help me find the party, try to get in touch with me. She could not leave her number, but I know who place to call. 'Cause my uncle took the message and he wrote it on the wall. Help me information, get in touch with my Marie. She's the only one who'd phone me here from Memphis, Tennessee. Her home is on the south side, high up on a ridge, just a half a mile from the Mississippi Bridge. Help me information more than that I cannot add. Only that I miss her and all the fun we had. But we were pulled apart because her mom did not agree. Tore apart our happy home in Memphis, Tennessee. Last time I saw Marie, she's waving me goodbye. With hurry home drops on her cheek that trickle from her eye. Marie is only 6 years old. Information, please. Try to put me through to her in Memphis, Tennessee.
Alright, for anyone who cares, it's probably one of my favorite Chuck Berry songs.
Deep down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in the woods among the evergreens, there stood a log cabin made of earth and wood, where lived a country boy named Johnny B. Good, who never ever learned to read or write so well, but he could play a guitar just like a ringing a bell. Go, go!
Go, Johnny, go, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go.
Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go.
Johnny be good.
He used to carry his guitar in a gunny sack, go sit beneath the tree by the railroad track. Old engine, he would see him sitting in the shade, strumming with the rhythm that the drivers made. When people passing by, they would stop and say, oh my, but that little country boy could play. Go,
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 go. go, go.
Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Johnny be good. His mother told him someday you will be a man, and you will be the leader of a big old band. Many people coming from miles around to hear you play your music when the sun go down. Maybe someday your name will be in lights saying, Johnny be good tonight. Go, 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 Johnny, go. 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 Go.
Johnny be good. Alright, I think I heard the mailman pull up. So, let me stick it with Johnny Be Good.
Deep down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in the woods among the evergreens, there stood a log cabin made of earth and wood, where lived a country boy named Johnny Be Good, who never ever learned to read or write so well, but he could play a guitar just like a ring in a bell. Go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, go. Johnny be good. He used to carry his guitar in a gunny sack, go sit beneath the tree by the railroad track. Old engineer was seen sitting in the shade, strumming with the rhythm that the drivers made. When people passing by, they would stop and say, oh my, but that little country boy could play. Go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Johnny be good.
Alright, I'm back. Oh, he is in the neighborhood, by the way. I don't know why I keep doing this, but I am.
His mother told him someday you will be a man, and you will be the leader of a big old band. Many people coming from miles around to hear you play your music when the sun go down. Maybe someday your name will be in lights saying, Johnny be good tonight. Go, 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 Johnny, go. 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 Go.
Johnny Be Good.
Deep down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in the woods among the evergreens, there stood a log cabin made of earth and wood, where lived a country boy named Johnny Be Good, who never ever learned to read or write so well, but he could play a guitar just like a ring in a bell.
That's my favorite line of the song.
Go, Johnny, go,
that anyone cares.
Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go.
Johnny be good.
He used to carry his guitar in a gunny sack. Go sit beneath the tree by the railroad track. All the engineer was sitting in the shade, strumming with the rhythm that the drivers made. When people passing by, they would stop and say, oh my, but that little country boy could play. Go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Johnny be good. His mother told him someday you will be a man, and you will be the leader of a big old band. Many people coming from miles around to hear you play your music when the sun go down. Maybe someday your name will be in lights saying Johnny be good
Tonight.
Go, 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 Johnny, go. 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 Go. Johnny be good. Deep down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in the woods among the evergreens, there stood a log cabin made of earth and wood, where lived a country boy named Johnny B. Good, who never ever learned to read or write so well, but he could play a guitar just like a ring in a bell. Go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Johnny be good. He used to carry his guitar in a gunny sack, go sit beneath the tree by the railroad track. All the engineer was sitting in the shade, strumming with the rhythm that the drivers made. When people passing by, they would stop and say, oh my, but that little country boy could play. Go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. Johnny be good.
Jesus, stop doing that.
His mother told him someday you will be a man, and you will be the leader of a big old band. Many people coming from miles around to hear you play your music when the sun go down. Maybe someday your name will be in lights saying Johnny be good tonight. Go, 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 Johnny, go. 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 Go.
Johnny be good. Alright, what else can we listen to? Go to live. There's gonna be something in there we can watch, listen to. Ooh. Open podcast, community podcast. Sweet. Like videos. David Shaw, shout out. I don't know. Yeah, then I don't really listen to music, so I don't know what I want to listen to right now. Okay. Ooh. How do I build an audience for my podcast? Okay, let me just undo that. How do I build an audience for my podcast? And then you do that. Alright. What's his name? Dan Meisner. Dan Meisner. Dan Meisner gives some job.